Raturday night is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Vcrslot And Astroblur, what the hell is up?
Howdy.
Hey, I've I don't know. I guess I'm hanging out as usual.
My end is going to be a lot of like exclusives that I've just kind of been putting together in Ableton, a lot of flips and remixes and covers. The usual.
I'm throwing the fuck down. It's a motherfucking house party. You bet your ass.
Hell yeah. Love that we get both ends of this. We were talking a little bit before the interview about y'all's process and Finley, on one side, you're very regimented, you're releasing, 3 projects at once. Astroblur, you were talking about just doing it, just putting it out. I wonder, where do you think that difference in your process comes from?
I think it comes down to how we are as people. Like, I kind of tend to bite off a lot more than I can chew and then come out of it all right at the end. So it's like organized, disorganized chaos kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm spontaneous when it comes to virtually everything that I do, and at best, I surprise people when it comes to how fast my turnover rate is. But at worst, I still have my spells of burnout.
So, you two work together like a lot. Well, I mean, I don't know about a lot, but you two have certainly worked together. Do you find that those like conflicting styles ever get in the way of your production?
The way we collaborate, usually I tend to handle like chords and like pads and stuff like that, right? And the issue is that I kind of have all these things kind of going on that I like forget to send things over. So really it's not super, I don't think it's super invasive, but because I tend to plan out just a little bit more, I kind of like get too lost in it to really go where I want to go with our collaborations. But whenever we do like actually link up, like it's just a really beautiful blend.
Oh yeah,
I agree.
How do we feel about dogs here? So, what are your thoughts about dogs? Let's start with this.
I like dogs.
Okay.
Very
I like cats better.
Yeah.
I like cats better. I like dogs. They're like, this is an interesting question to ask me. I feel like, because my standpoint on dogs is always kind of neutral. Like, everyone around me always seemed to love them with an undying sense of adoration and like elation and whatnot, all sorts of positive feelings and vibes. And like, I'd be around dogs, like, oh hey, cool.
Yeah,
right.
There's a dog.
Right.
That's the end of the sentence. I've always been more of a cat person.
Yeah. People get so excited, and they start walking up to him, make all the baby noises, and I'm like, this is a little man over here. What's he doing?
A little dog, a little guy.
Just a little guy. He's just
I like
chilling.
that with cats too. I don't like. I never like baby talk cats. Like, a cat would be walking around and be staring at me, like, what? What do you want? What are you doing? You hungry? Come on, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm. So there's an interesting dichotomy here. I think people tend to know how to act around dogs, or at least they think they know, right? There's that whole like, my God, hey, what's going on? And I assume Finley, you get that a lot. I'm not sure how people I'm not sure how people act towards people with televisions for heads. How does that affect your day to day? How do people talk to you?
Well, the first thing they do is like grab a home console and try to plug it into the backboard of my head, which is really rude. You wouldn't believe like how many people have tried to do that before. Like, maybe they don't take it out their house, but like that's the first thing they always ask me. Like, can I play Xbox on you? And I'm like, I don't even know how to phrase a comeback, because like, then I'm asking them like, what if you had a TV for a head? But like, that's a really normal thing to ask someone, right? They don't even know what that experience is like regarding like that aspect of how I live, because like, you wouldn't believe it. Like, getting indoors sometimes, like, it's a bit of a hassle. And the funniest thing people like to throw at me is like, if I put a magnet on you, would it mess you up? It's like, that's, I mean, like pause one. For two, it depends on like other heads like me. I don't know how they react to that, but like, the effect
it's not something you're gonna try, right?
No, the effect it has on my little fucking, or my rather huge TV noggin is more so akin to psychedelic drugs than it is to poison.
Oh, fuck yeah.
But at the same time, considering how magnets mess up TVs, it's like asking someone, hey, if I cut you, would it hurt? Like,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
A bad trip.
Maybe.
Like,
I don't know. This is so weird for me, because that's a little dark. That's more backstory than I think we need for this interview. I was about to talk about, being stabbed and that kind of thing.
Vibes shifting, actualizing it.
I imagine I was thinking as you were telling that story about trying to get through doors, not being able to do that sometimes. I was thinking about
I do damn thing.
this playground that I used to play on as a child and the little tube that you could go through. And that got me thinking about childhood, which is why I'm about to ask, how did you two start making music?
Oh,
What a segue.
I started a bit older. I started when I was like 15. I was making these like vaporwave things in like Audacity, and then like 2 years later I was like, I want to start, trying to make stuff that sounds like, I don't know, fucking like, I want to make stuff that sounds like house music or whatever. I want to make beats. And then I downloaded Ableton and I started kind of messing around with all the instruments and all the effects, and I've kind of just been there now learning like kind of just learning theory piece by piece just on my own, finding new styles and stuff.
So for me, I started like really young, and I have always been scatterbrained with it. So like I've never stayed in one direction. It's kind of made it hard for me to realize what my project even was. I went by like a bunch of different names, and I tried to settle for one genre, but all of them were too fun to produce. So I've kind of leaned into it, and I just kind of do whatever I want now, and that's kind of the name of the game. It's really way easier.
I'm loving sort of the dichotomy. As we get deeper into this interview, I'm seeing like, first of all, blue and orange. So that's like already something. It's really interesting to see y'all are like a little bit of a yin and yang type of thing. I love that. That's fucking cool.
Definitely.
People have said that many
I'm very
times.
passive. Prin's very active. It's very fun and cool and neat.
That's accurate. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Astro, you almost teed me up there, so I'm glad you did that, because this is my next question. Astro was asking, or talking about, you have a lot of artists that you draw from Vcrslot. Do you want to tell me about some of those?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I take a lot of my sound inspiration from like a lot of like old house stuff, like Frankie Knuckles, Larry Heard, a lot of outsider house sort of like old school like OGs, fucking Paul Johnson, rest in peace. Like people who have like kind of done this kind of stuff for ages. But I also take a lot of inspiration from like newer kind of acts, like relatively newer that go all over the place. Like, oh, like I sing with a vocoder a lot. That's inspired by like Tobacco from Black Moth Super Rainbow. That's a recent psych rock kind of band. A lot of my sound is very inspired by Toro y Moi, the kind of whole chill wave scene, that kind of thing. It's very retro focused in a way that doesn't really fit a lot of kind of qualifications of like what's popular now, I guess, but I have fun making it. I'm also really inspired more so by like incidental music, like the kind of stuff you hear like in like commercials and VHS tapes and like video game soundtracks. Like if I can make something that sounds like it came out of a Sega Saturn, then I'm set,
Do you have a favorite video game soundtrack?
That's a hell of a question, but at the moment, um, probably the Japanese Sonic CD soundtrack or like Nights into Dreams, like a lot of Sega stuff.
Amber, can we get a couple quick seconds of Sonic CD? Speaking of retro video games, do we want to go to chat questions? I've got the perfect chat question here to make this happen.
Oh,
Sure.
Sorbo in the chat says, "What's the story behind this picture?"
Okay. So, all right. So I was at the flea market because my partner was visiting a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, "I'm gonna take you to my favorite flea market to see if we could find anything cool there." We go over to this booth that's selling a bunch of like plush toys and like little figures, and like they have like a lot of like they have little Amogus, they have some Sonic stuff there, which is cool. But then we found this guy, this little Mario, and we kind of freaked because one of our friends, Declan at the Jedi Liker, I
At the
believe.
Jedi Liker, yeah.
Yeah, he's got this
Yeah.
thing where he represents himself online as this little bootleg Mario that's got like a little striped shirt and everything, and we're like, oh shit, it's like an alternate version of him. So we took this picture, and it's on the internet forever. This picture is incredible.
Teeth Holloway in the chat says, "What's your backstories like?"
So you see, my little dog, she came into existence
Here we
when
go.
I was like, 14 years old. I hadn't transitioned yet, but I was really into Homestuck, right? But you could probably tell people have clocked me as like a Homestuck from the way that I draw hairs.
Hmm.
Like I was really into Homestuck when I was like younger. I still kind of am, and I remember I had like the fucking wildest crush on Jade Hart.
Who
Like,
doesn't? Fuck.
right?
That's just
like,
taste.
okay, so like facts. So
Girlfriend.
she turns into like she's got like these half dog. She got the ears and the tail, and I'm like, wow, it'd be really cool if I could like it'd be cool if I could like self-insert and like kiss and stuff. So I made a little like half dog also. I made a little half dog also, and then like she was just kind of a vague sort of like concept until I actually transitioned right after turning 14, and then I started like developing like what she looked like and like all her little info and all her little info, and then I was like, okay, well I'm gonna start drawing her a lot to explore fashion because that's something I have like a pretty big interest in.
Mhm.
So she's just kind of like me, but like a dog.
You, but if you could kiss Jade Harley.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Fuck yeah. I love that. Astroblur.
Hey. Oh. Wow. Regarding this character in specific, man. So what happened was I have a long time friend rather named Willow, who went by a different username back in early 2015 when I first got this doodle. But I got sent a doodle of a TV head character that had no name. That they were like, they said I was a really expressive person regarding how I talked online and whatnot. And, I used a lot of emoticons when I said stuff. So they imagined the TV head for me, and they just doodled them. And their face was originally like changed. It would change dynamically, like a lot. So it would be sometimes a giant question mark. It would be like a little silly text, emoji face, like a cow emoji face, etc., etc. I dropped them for a while, but what happened was, I later on I wanted to have a character represent me that I felt would be the central piece to like everything I did, and I felt like a TV head was the perfect choice between my love for like analog like analog media regarding like function, like how it distorts and how it just looks overall, and my general love of cartoons and like old video games and etc., and technology even. And what happened was the original drawing, they looked pretty normal and like average for TV head standards, and I went up to one of my pals and they had commissions open, and I was like, hey, can you draw my guy with like 3 eyes and he's wearing the Sans coat and he's doing a Slav squat?
Hell
And I
yeah.
said that somehow completely seriously without laughing, and I laughed at it later on, but then I was like, this is gonna look so ridiculous. I was just kind of throwing this out there to test the waters, and the image came back and I was like, and the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah.
He stuck. He absolutely stuck.
It's-
He's become representative for not even just me, but what I create in a way. Like the leaking TV is a central part of the brand when it comes to the artwork I do, just because of the fact that I've always had a relationship with like eye straining visuals, and it always felt like it was coming out at me whenever anything on TV would really, really catch my attention. Like it was coming out of the screen, I guess. Regarding whenever I would be viewing it or like looking at it. So there's the vibe I wanted to like centralize in my art, and I feel like having a TV head definitely really, really personified that. And like given the backstory I have with him being some like cool extraterrestrial like robot guy, that really fits well with how I felt about myself regarding me like being on the autism spectrum and like always being really really good at what I do, but having issues like socially adjusting and wherever I'm at even to this day. Still kind of have issues with that kind of thing, but it was always freeing to me to identify with what I could view as a living, breathing, metallic, silly looking creature that was not at all human, not at all terrestrial, because like it just kind of made me like feel a little bit better. And even if it is made with a piece of technology that was invented on Earth, like you can't look at this guy and compare him to like your average guy walking down the street and say they're the same, like remotely. Even TVs don't have bodies now, do they?
Heike from the chat wants to know what you do when you get burnt out on music.
Burnout for me, I'm trying to think back to points in time I've had burnout before. I can only think of one specific period of my life where I really had it hard, or two. But they were both related to me being dissatisfied with what I was producing, I guess. Or it was more so with reception, I think, but either way, whenever I would get burnt out, like I always knock it down to the basics and I just throw a little exercise out there for myself. I just make like a drone, like a droney pad, or I like write a little piano thing, or maybe I listen to my old output to like remind myself that I'm good at what I do. And really, it depends on what the burnout stems from, but generally, if I'm not doing anything with Ableton, I'm listening to my old output to like remind myself that I can do stuff, or I'm just kind of warming up in a way. Like I just kind of make a little 8-bar loop here and there, or like write a little pad thing, and so I can remind myself like, hey, I can do this, and then it all kind of works out from there. Songs for me are really spontaneous, so burnout for me either lasts really briefly or way too long. But the only time it lasted too long was a different story, but that's a whole long story in itself.
Kenzie Lee Quake Rock from the chat wants to know, how does one get into music production to begin with? Tools, resources, communities, etc.
Well, first off, you gotta like find off. Like I think you have to look inside and like really wonder like, okay, what kind of music do I want to put out? Like, do I want to put out like XYZ, and then go from there. But with tools and resources and stuff, YouTube is your best friend. Okay, I don't know if we're gonna get killed for advocating piracy. But
go for it. Fuck it. We love it.
Okay, get into PC.com is like the greatest website of all time. You can find fucking anything on there.
I didn't know we were gonna recommend a specific website, but that's fine. I don't have strong feelings about that.
We could cut that if you want.
No,
okay,
don't cut it. Amber, leave it in.
I'd say that for when it comes to DAWs, like I'd say that Ableton and FL might be like your best bets with regards to user friendliness.
Yeah, I would say for sure.
Like with Ableton, I specifically recommend if you're interested in working with samples at all.
But
definitely,
I can save that for my answer.
Definitely steal. Definitely, please steal.
Always steal if you always can. Pirate my music. It's already free, but pirate it anyway. Okay, that's my answer.
All right.
Oh boy, here we go. Regarding music production for me, if you're trying to get into it, it's always good to look around the internet for free stuff, but pirate wherever necessary if you even can, because that kind of shit's really really hard to get your hands on. But communities is really just down to like genre and like how they talk to you when it comes to music production. I feel like overall. Another thing I want to note regarding if you are getting into music production, this is something that I feel like everyone has to hear that I had to hear. First thing you do is not gonna sound good. The first couple things you do are not gonna sound great. This is normal. This is fine.
I think that's all we have time for. We're actually a little bit over time. We got to get on to the rest of Hexen. We got to get onto your back-to-back. Fuck.
Probably because of me.
But anyway, so up next is back-to-back from Astroblur and Vcrslot. You can find Vcrslot on Twitter at VCRSLOT, exactly how it sounds. You can find Astroblur at http://comet.ju Comment.mp. Comment.
Love the URL.
That's gonna be everything from me tonight, folks. But enjoy the rest of Hexen. Fucking have a great one. Bye.
The water's great, hey, Junior?
Sure is, Papa. Come on in, Mama Peach. I think not. Mario! You again? Don't you ever give up?
Mario! How dare you disturb my family vacation?